Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Hi guys,
How's it
nice
going
to see
today?
you.
Okay, so
Good.
today we have with us Gianluca Bortolanza, aka Borto, and he's gonna be the pro gamer of these episodes, and he's currently working at HFAM. It's an Italian company, and he's working as an Unreal Engine developer.
Thanks for the presentation, Leo. And I'll just say a few things about Leo. Leo, it's actually Leonardo. He's an senior environment artist at Ubisoft Toronto, and he worked on games such as The Division 2, and is currently working on Far Cry 6. Very cool, very cool.
Thank you. So today in this video, for those of you that is new to this channel, we're gonna look at a gameplay footage that Borto recorded for us, and we're gonna freeze the time in some shots, and we're gonna analyze the shot, and we're gonna try to understand what details makes the game such a good game. In this case, the game that we picked for this episode is gonna be Control by Remedy Entertainment. And I think so far it's looking good.
Yeah, maybe we can say a few words about Control. In case you didn't know, Control is a third-person action-adventure game developed by Remedy Entertainment, the same studio that developed Alan Wake. So maybe, Leo, have you ever played it?
I played Control
Alan
and
Wake?
I played Quantum Break as well, but
Quantum
I
Break?
never
Yeah,
play
yeah.
Alan Break. I know it's a
Awesome.
masterpiece, but I never got a chance to.
Well, you actually should play it. It was a Microsoft original, I think, at the time. But right now you can play it on Steam or stuff like that. So you said it. They also did Quantum Break, and it's, I think, in some ways similar to Control because the supernatural skills that you have are very alike. In this game, you are a young woman, like I said, with supernatural skills like telekinesis. You can fly around and stuff like that. That becomes this woman the new director of the Bureau of Control. It's like FBA, but with for supernatural enemies. So the entire game takes place in the Bureau headquarters, that it's called the oldest house, and it's a skyscraper in New York City. And maybe we can say the last thing is that it's very interesting the fact that Control takes place in the same universe as the other Remedy games, like Alan Wake and Quantum Break, and it's the universe. It's called Remedy Connected Universe. So that's it with the intro. I guess we can jump on to the game.
That's pretty good info. Didn't know that they were all set in the same universe. Good to know.
Yeah, that was actually very interesting also to me.
Right, again, for the people who's watching, feel free to ask any question. We're gonna have some breaks during the video where we're gonna answer questions that you guys have or questions that Bordo might have. All right, without further ado, let's jump into the video.
This is gonna be weirder than usual. Can't be helped. You called me. So here I am. I know I shut you out sometimes.
I actually played this game and I really enjoy the art direction that it's in this game. Like the brutalist
Yeah,
buildings, the colors, the like everything that it's in this game is really good.
Led to nothing.
the colors are so great in this game. They use very much the red for like everything. And I got a very strong feeling about
Poster on the wall.
Star Wars vibes during the play time I did, because you move around so much. You use like this superpower that you have that are like you feel like a Jedi to me.
A landscape, a famous person.
Yeah, makes
Like
sense.
in that movie.
I also really like how they execute the effects during fights and shooting.
And the picture
That looks really awesome.
Yeah.
different.
And all the
Each of us
physics and
is
instructions connected with it is
terrible, but we're
also very cool.
all transfixed. But it's all a lie. Something to distract
Yeah,
us
story-wise,
from
it's
They're lying to
very. It was very hard to me at the beginning to understand what was going on.
The world is much
But once you go
much stranger.
deep in it, it's pretty amazing.
There's a hole hidden behind that poster that leads to the real world. We all feel safe in that room. But sometimes something crawls out from behind.
Like other games, I think this game focus a lot on the symmetry of the composition as well as the one-point perspective kind of technique, which is really cool. It's good to see games like that.
Why did you bring me here?
There you go, we start now.
Hello? Anyone here?
Such a nice... Oh my god, this guy playing here is a bit drunk, looking around, jumping everywhere.
I was getting used to the comments, And I just wanted to try if the flag was really simulating cloud.
You can see already how the lights is helping you going on top. And the door is like, oh, should I check inside there? Why the door opened? It's interesting.
Yeah, I entered just because the door opened like that.
Same as this one.
I saw it a long time ago. I keep seeing it in my dreams.
So as you can see, this building has quite a brutalist style, like massive concrete pillars and concrete walls, blur painting of people, a lot of toilets. As you can see here, I think in the last episode someone was mentioning something about toilet. And in this case here, we have toilet. We got signage that says where the toilets are. So this space is very realistic from that point of view. That has all the infrastructural spaces that you would expect from a space like this. Yeah, overall, really cool. I really like it. Now let's see if I can get a shot when it turns around. Sorry. Oops, no. Never mind. Actually, let's see this cutscene. I like the lighting here cutting through and making him adding that kind of information from the blinders on him.
You need to go to the interview. Go that way to the elevator.
Thanks. Elevator that way. Got it.
Very good. I'm Ahti, the janitor, by the way. You'll work for me.
No, I think the music is still playing.
Don't hire you, either.
The lounge music.
Relevant.
Yeah, we're gonna stop it soon.
Work for the axe. Take them behind the sauna, you
I've done enough night shift loner jobs to know.
So what I wanted to show in this moment here, let me see if I can grab a nice screenshot of it.
no face at all.
Here, it's a bit blurred because I think someone forgot to remove the motion blur. But what I really like about this space and in general this environment is the contrast between the soft and specular surfaces, like you see here in this part here, and so the contrast between the soft surfaces and the rough ones. You can see here that there's no specularity on this area here. And I don't know if you noticed, but the janitor was mopping the floor, and you can see the details here. Again, it's a bit blurred, but basically you can see the mop strokes here, which is really interesting details to me, because it shows, it connects the storytelling of the janitor, which is somewhere here, and that is cleaning with this like mop thing, and it connects, and it shows that he just did that part and now he's working on that. Plus, on top of that, we got elements like this little sign here, which is like, be careful because it's wet and you can slip, and can't really see around here, but probably you got other assets that are connected to the storytelling of the janitor to ground more the janitor inside this space here. And but yeah, these details here, this like texture of mop strokes is really good, and I think adds a lot. And you can see again the contrast between this material and this material. It's really good too. Let's keep going.
Yeah, in terms of specularity, this is one of the first games that actually take advantages of the RTX technology. So also in the gameplay, it's enabled the ray tracing and the deep learning super sample.
Yeah, you can see it's definitely really cool.
The cell and the poster. I was 11 years old the first time I saw behind the poster. They told me I imagined it. I've been trying to pull it down ever since. Will you help?
Again, you can see here, for example, how the composition is very central. So you got like this line here, and everything is pretty symmetrical. You got these lines here, you got the desk. And that's another way to create composition. And I think once you are familiar with the classic one, such as the rule of third, such as the golden ratio and things like that, I think creating this central 1 point composition, it can create very interesting results. You will see often that like central symmetry, many shots. As well as here, you see, it's very Kubrick looking. Don't know if any one of you watched The Shining. There are many shots in The Shining that they're using that central point perspective with the symmetry on each side. These scenes are really cool. Alright, so we're getting the game now.
It's all very cinematic. It was like playing an actual TV series than a game, you know.
Yeah, I see. In this case here, you can see already again what I was saying. We got this like vertical line here, which is divided the frame in two areas, and we got this perspective line, this like carpet here, which pops out a lot because it's the only color you got in the scene. You got a bit of color here, but that's not really attracting you. So you can definitely see here, you can definitely see the shape of the character, because I guess that's what it's all about. And one thing that is really cool in this shot that I wanted to point out is the framing. I think the fact that we are in an elevator and you can see the doors of the elevator on the side, it lets you frame the environment that you see through these windows in a way that you can control. So sometimes you got an elevator opening, sometimes you can have a windows, sometimes you can have a gap in some rocks and you can frame some vista elements, something like that. I think this is like a common practice that we do in game to create interesting places where players can check what's inside the windows and see like the storytelling of it and everything. And yeah, again, look at the contrast between this material and that material. We got a rough material here and a soft material here. We got all the branding. In the last episode, we talked about how important it is to have branding and infrastructure elements on the environment. And here it's another example. We got all the things about I don't know. I think this is a guard booth, and you need to go through this meta detector area because you're going to the director office. Looks like from this sign here. So this is connected to that, and because this is the director office, you got element that shows that in here there is a guard that will ask you probably question and things like that. And I don't know what's this number. Probably there is a meaning between the number, maybe an Easter egg or something. But yeah, this might be like the people inside or whatever it is. And it's nice to see how this space is like the storytelling in this space. Looking also at the table on the left side here is that people get here, maybe they have appointments with the director, and they have the chance to wait and sit on the couch here and read some magazine that you can see here. So everything is really well connected, in my opinion. You got some other couches on this side, and I like the symmetry. I like the line leadings with the perspective. You can have more here. See, all of these gaps are like leading towards that.
Mhm.
And they're all leading towards the, like if we try to draw this thing, they're all leading here, which is probably where you'll have to go, or maybe there's a door or something. And I think that's very cool and balanced way. And it's not just like a full symmetry. You can see how the right side is different from the left side, but you can see also how everything is connected together with the storytelling and everything. I think pretty cool. But yeah, the takeaway from this shot is the framing of the elevator allows you to frame specific things in a way that you want.
Do you think in this particular shot that they try not to be perfectly symmetrical with the the things on the left and the right side, because it would be, if it was perfectly balanced, it would be actually seem like a fake scene. So
Yeah, it's like perfect symmetry might exist, not like might exist like in real life, but in general, I think as you said, having some breakups in the symmetry makes this space more interesting, in my opinion. So I guess that's what they went for. Let's go back to the video.
Did I lose you there for a moment? You know what's on my mind.
You can see now that you are, when you moved outside the elevator, you see how you lost that sort of framing of what you needed to look at. And now you just see that. And yeah, you can see at the end, there's the door, which is probably the director office door. This is the guard booth that they check who's coming in, who's coming out. I guess coffee space.
yeah, I really loved how everything was so detailed. Every little piece was in place,
Yeah. Some sound there. You can see that this is a special place because this is a special door, right?
Shit.
Let's call them like.
Shit.
Yeah.
You want me to pick it up? The murder weapon? Really?
So in this shot here, it's very obvious already, but you can see how it looks like he shot himself. So there is the hand here next to the gun, which looks like, oh, probably he was holding the gun. You have the blood there that came out from his head, and probably, but it didn't shoot here. It shot from this location here, and you can see the splashes of blood all over the place here, and the chair is like on a side, which suggests that he was probably sitting. He shot himself, splashes of blood ended up on the table and on the objects, on the desk and on the documents. And then it just fell over ended up in this position. At the same time, though, like yeah, probably the splashes. Like imagine the head was here. Actually, let me change color because it's very similar. Let me put up blue. Imagine the head. The head was here. You got the head, and it shot like that. And you got the splashes like that, a bit of splashes there, and you can see here as well there are splashes, which might suggest the direction where he was shooting the bullet from. You can see splashes here, splashes there. So I think it's really well done, and the subtle details really helps to sell this murder scene. And again, material, we got red, we got red, the rough carpet, and then we got a soft or gray concrete there, and then the shiny puddle of blood suggests us that this happened very recently. In fact, we heard the sound just a few seconds ago. Because usually, if you wanna make it look like it has happened for a long time, you don't put shiny blood, because blood get dry and then lose a bit of property, the specularity properties. Yeah, this thing looks really good. It's like a lot of details. I don't understand much this, but maybe there is some reason behind. Maybe it didn't just suicide. Maybe something happened, and this is a hint of what might have happened. We'll see.
You know what? You have all the knowledge to be an actual detective. If someday the environment artist job doesn't pay you enough, you could actually do take the path of the detectives.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, especially when we make crime scene, we kind of had to put ourselves in the detective shoes and try to create a storytelling so that players can read the storytelling and understand the course of events.
Yeah, because I guess in the very end, it needs all to make sense. That's the main reason of everything. So
again guys, if you have questions, feel free to ask in the chat and we'll try to answer as we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at this place.
Look at this place. So shiny. Even in this place, you can see how they try to create that sort of symmetry. So you got the towers here, and the same tower it's also here, right? So you got the reflection of that, and because you got the object in the scene and the reflection on all these very specular looking elements, they create always this this sort of like central line where everything is kind of, all the perspective line are converging to that location. You can see again all of that. You can see. So again, even in these spaces, even if they are very abstract, I think the direction was to keep this sort of one-point perspective composition with a pyramid on the sky and the reflection of it on the floor. It's pretty interesting. Obviously, they cannot keep that throughout the whole space because you move around, you change direction. But I think that is pretty interesting.
Yeah, but like what about that? We said that in the previous episode that in that case they could control it because there was a gate where the player needed to go through, right?
Yeah, exactly. The fact that you were starting there, they were controlling it. But in general, what I just say about this space applies everywhere. See, it applies here, and again, yeah, you can control it here too, and you can see the symmetry that I was talking about with the things flowing and the reflection. And because the marble, or whatever material that is so shiny, you will basically see the repeated mirrored image of that tower there.
Mhm.
Beep, beep, beep. And then you got a few guys here. It's really cool, the way that NPC behaves when you shoot at them, and the effects of it, and the physics. So very cool. What did you think about the gameplay of this game?
I liked very much the supernatural skills that you had. The shooting, it was okay, I guess, nothing special. But obviously, I guess the major focus was on the skills that the player has
Yeah.
rather than the shooting. So, I have a
Question time.
question.
All right,
A
let's
few
go to
questions,
the.
actually, a couple. So, I just wanted to ask you, what comes first when creating an like that, an environment like that? Do you usually put user experience in front of the artistic view that you have, or it's the other way?
I think when you start an environment, you first starting with the blockout, which is a very rough representation of the big shape of an environment, and that's basically to make sure that the user experience, the user navigation, and the leading of the player works. And then once we've done that, then we do an artistic pass. So me, for example, I will go over the blockout and I will start to replace gray boxes with pretty assets that are textured and looks nice. So yeah, I think when you create an environment, you start with a user experience or navigation, you can call it, and then from there you move to more artistic look. So a lot of times, if there is a strong art direction of the game because the game needed, the art direction it's also present in the blockout. So, for example, in this abstract space where we want to be in this environment where it's all like floaty and it's all like in this foggy white atmosphere. Obviously, when they did the blockout, they didn't just create a room; they create cubes to make like that sort of platforms, and that's probably dictated by the art direction or the game direction of the game. So in that case, the blockout of that scene it would have been affected by the art direction. So it really depends, but in general, user experience comes first, and then from there we make it pretty. Because if it's pretty but it doesn't play, it's not really a good experience.
Makes sense. Also, when do you create an environment? What or better, how would you recommend to start once you are, beginning the work?
Yeah, as I said earlier, like you start with a gray box, so you create the bigger shapes and you make sure that the navigation works, the player leading works, the eye goes where it has to go, composition works, so all those sort of things. And from there, you go then to you start to replace things like assets, structural elements, and things like that. And you start to add texture, and you make sure that after you did the first pass of beautification, let's call it, of the blockout, you make sure that the navigation and the player leading still work as good as it was doing it before. And then if that's still the case, then you go to the next pass, which is more like a polished pass. And obviously lighting as well. I think lighting comes in the blockout too, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
I see.
Do you have any
Okay,
other
good.
question?
Not at the time. Maybe
Okay.
later.
Okay, let's go back to the video then. Again, the subject that were in the center, pretty cool.
Right after the pyramid spoke to me, and it was just noise, and I understood every word. And this gun's alive. You know what? I'm happy.
Let's see where Porto goes now.
Happy to be here.
Obviously, like you start the game, but you're back in the game, and you're already facing the direction you have to go. So that's another key. That's pretty cool. So again, here, if we stop, this is the first time you encounter the enemies. It's very dark, so actually, let me change the color. You can really see the lines there, but you can see how everything is leading towards this frame here. And then inside this frame, you see how the enemies or whatever things are floating are kind of detached from the background. So you can see how strong the light behind is and makes these elements pops out a bit more. Even if they have like a white t-shirt, like a white shirt like this guy, you can still see the general shape of this character. So that's pretty good. And another cool things about this shot that is very common to do is to create reflection, like in this case. And as you were saying, they push a lot of reflection, and you can see pretty much in every environment. And yeah, you can see how cool this shot becomes because of this reflection. Yeah, the fact that there is a light behind like coming from the director office also create these very long shadows, which is act pretty much like an arrow, right? And then
Right.
And then on top of that, yeah, we got the same line here, that, and you can see how everything is like right in the middle, and this is very symmetrical. You got some elements here to break it a bit, but in general, it's very symmetrical. And again, this is really cool, in my opinion. I also really like how the light color transition between the red, which is like in this area here, and the bluish dark tone that is like where you got the shadows. Yeah, and you can see the gradient that creates this light here. I think it's really cool. But yeah, I really like this central composition. I think you can see in the environment how cool that is. Let's go back to the video.
You can't let this happen.
Those lights flashing, they're basically showing you that there are flanking routes. I really like these scenes that are kind of not in video game, but it is just recorded.
Yeah, Remedy usually do that. I remember also in Alan Wake that there were scenes directly took from real life
Yeah,
with
exactly.
actual actors.
It's interesting to see how during the introduction of the enemies, you weren't able to see the flanking routes, and when the lights got back, you were able to see it. It was really interesting, because I think they really wanted you to focus on seeing the enemies rather than where to go, and then once you saw them, then they switched the light on, and you were able to see much more of the environment.
Secure line of communication.
You can see how the light in that office was helping player leading towards that direction, and then once you got close enough to this opening, you were able to see the fact that there is a hole here, like I think it looks like a conference room or maybe a cafe area. Hard to say right now. One thing that I wanna talk about here, which is really, really, really well executed in this scene, and a lot of time people miss that, is the amount of material that this environment has, like in terms of structures. So you can see in the architecture, you got like one material here, which is this concrete, which is the same concrete here, the same concrete that goes here, the same that goes here, and it's also this one, and it's probably also this one that you have on top here. So that's one material, and then on top of that you got the floor. So let's change the color for the floor, so you can see how the floor is kind of similar. Maybe it's actually the same material, but just shinier. But I don't think that would be the case. But you can see the floor here. So we got two. And then lastly, we got the wooden wall, which is there at the background. So you can see that it goes there somewhere. Like that. So those three materials, I can call it three, are the main materials of this part of the architecture. And it's really important to keep the number of material that you have in your interior, in your scene, in your building, whatever, to like a low number. And I think 3 is like I would call it the magic number where everything works nicely. And again, it's really important as well to break the floor, the wall with the floor, so that you can see where one end and the other starts, rather than having one color everywhere. Unless there is a specific reason why you're doing that. Usually, like, you try to make either the floor darker and the wall lighter, or the wall lighter and the floor darker. And
why the low number? Is
because
there a reason?
I think in general, I think it's a good guideline to follow when designing a space. You will see probably if you check some architects, you probably see the same kind of concept of having very few materials. Because when you start to have too many materials, in general, it becomes much harder to make things nice in harmony, rather than having fewer materials. And especially in game, if you have too many materials, then the players can get overwhelmed with the amount of information that they can read from the picture that they are looking at. So again, especially in game, it's very useful to have fewer material, unless less specific things. Then obviously I'm talking about the structural elements. As you can see here, if we're looking at the props, we got this document thing here, which is this dark gray thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the carpet, which is another red.
Yeah, so the rule is not applied to the props of the scene, but just the structural part.
Yeah, obviously, when you do an interior design of the space, you need to consider how the space looks like in terms of colors, in terms of things. So you don't try to... Yeah, you need to try to create an harmony between the colors.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can see also there's like some green here. But yeah, for example, you see that they use the green carpet here, and it's the green carpet here, and it's the green carpet here, and it's the green carpet here. So you see that they use one color, and this color works nice with these brownish and gray materials. So they kept the same color throughout all the other carpets. Same for for this. Yeah, you got it here, you got it here. This is the same but lit, and etc. The wood here is probably let me change the color. The wood here that you see on this desk is probably a variation or something like it's very similar to this one. See, and you got a repeat everywhere, so you can see how it doesn't really add an extra color to the scene. So yeah, the takeaway point of this is like use 3 materials when you make an environment, and that will look much cooler. And try to work on the contrast between floor and wall, and the contrast between a soft material like the floor. Soft, I mean like that reflects a lot, against the rough material like the carpet or like the wood that doesn't reflect the light as much, to create contrast and interesting visual. Let's go back to the video. Again, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat and we will try to answer it. You can see the reflection, how cool they are. I guess this is a safe place for the player to be. Let's see. You can see how, like, I think you can count the amount of colors you see in this scene, because even if the plants were
Made me earlier.
even if the plants were green, other things on the desk were green, so they kept the same color.
The history of enemy?
I see.
Alright, it's our enemy.
So
I
again,
like the shading here.
yeah. Again here, the colors is really cool. These dark tones that are blue against this reddish light, I think they're really cool. And not in this specific shot, but maybe you can see a bit on the edge here. You can see how the gradient from the red to the blue, how nice and interesting lighting adds to the scene.
That babble's contagious. It burrows in like an infuriating melody that makes you hum it over and over.
I like how when the space is corrupted or something, it's so dark and bluish and foggy. And I like the fact that there is a tower there, like pointing exactly to where you have to go, I believe. It's very interesting.
Also, the VFX of the people exploding, it's so cool.
Yeah,
It's like deforming the air.
Cleanse the control point. What does that mean? Help me fix it.
there you go. And we're back to the colors now. Yeah, you can see this shot again. We got this very strong line coming there, and you have lines there leading to the character, and that's like these kind of lines came naturally because of the nature of this shape on top of that. But it's nice to see it. And to get back to what we were talking earlier about materials, you can see here again we got the concrete, which is here and there, whatever it is. And then this is the same concrete but with a different pattern, different like normal map or different like information. Same here. And then lastly we got the carpet, right? So you can see how the rule of 3 materials still works here too, and I think it's pretty good. And so you got this leading line, you got this perspective here going to that direction, which then converges to this line. So again, even this one, if they're not directly pointing to the player, are pointing to a very, very strong lines that leads your eyes down. And in this case here, it's really nice how they make the space where she's doing the thing, popping out more by putting carpet around it so that it pops more and it creates a break with the rest of the environment. And yeah, then we got the stairs here, and we got the line going down here. So pretty cool. Go back to the video.
Am I wrong, or you have to yet to use the rule of third in your analysis in this episode?
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, I think they used a lot of times this one point perspective with a central focus, and I think that what makes this game so unique and so nice, because they managed to do a good job with that kind of composition technique.
I should have lied.
Oh shit! You're the new director. Hold on, we're coming out.
They're coming out. Fog coming out from this. What were they doing there? Smoking? Usually we add more fog than we need just to make the light sharp, looking cooler. And it was funny to see that once they opened the door, there was fog coming out just to make the light coming out.
Somehow the hiss managed to infiltrate the building without any warning.
And just like that, my name for it is official. The hiss. Like the sound of poison gas leaking in.
We're in full lockdown. It seems to have spread everywhere and to everyone not protected by an HRA. And extraordinarily,
So I think we could take a break and,
that makes you special by definition.
you know,
Trench is
do some questions
Question time again. Let's
to
Go.
kill the time.
hang on. You guys can see our faces now.
So this whole game is very inspired by it's have a strong artistic view. So I wanted to actually ask you, how or where do you search your inspirations and sources for what you do in your daily job?
So depending to what environment you're making, you can find the sources in different locations. For example, there is a guy that I'm mentoring, just called Jacopo. If you're watching, Jacopo, good job. He's working on an environment inside an airport, and he was telling me how during the day is like listening to airport related podcasts to learn more about how the airport works and all the infrastructure that it's behind it. So I think depending on
Dedication.
yeah, that's dedication. Yeah, that's why I brought it up. And yeah, depending to the environment that you're working on, you can find different sources. So if you're making an environment based on real location, you like I myself went in Washington DC when we were making the Division 2 as a reference trip to understand the atmosphere, take some screenshots, some pictures of a building or location that we thought were interesting, and yeah, so depends what you're making. If you're making something that you can visit, go visit. If you can make something that has a lot of reference online, go find them all. If you can enhance the information that you get by other media like podcasts, like video, like tour of facilities. I don't know, if you're making a nuclear plant, probably you can go to a nuclear plant. So it might be better to check on YouTube if there's any video of people having a tour inside there and try to understand as much as possible what goes behind a power plant, not just like the image of it. So you need to understand maybe there are like always a chamber where you have to change clothes because you need to put like the clothes to protect you from potential radiation. So you need to have that on all the entrances, or like having some sort of health and safety that you probably don't see in public building, because it's like it's different. It's either like it's not public, so people working there knows what they're doing, and also people working there knows that they are working with the potentially dangerous elements. So that could change how the the health and safety of that space will work. So you need to look at all this like little thing, as well as infrastructure of the space. Do they have a fire extinguisher in a nuclear plant? Who knows? You need to find out, right? So all these little elements. So basically, you need to ask you a lot of questions that you don't have answer to, and find the answer via video, via image, via whatever media you can find with those answers.
I see. The Jacopo way is very interesting. So you do like McGonagall does with his films, his movies. He becomes the character that he needs to play. Jacopo in this way he becomes the environment that he needs to really create
exactly,
in a sort of way.
Pretty much.
So
and yeah, I think you touch on a good point. Like when you make an environment, you need to be in the shoes of an architect, of an engineer, of a space engineer, or whatever role that will fit the things that you're making. Like in the crime scene that we saw earlier, you either put yourself in the guy who shot himself, and you try to think, okay, it's a bit dark to see that, but just like try to imagine if you shoot yourself, what would happen after that, and try to recreate that. Or if you want to put it in a more like less dark way, you can put yourself in the detective shoes and try to piece the crime together and see how can you best describe that thing to players too.
I see. That's interesting. So just another quick question. So we were talking about your daily job, about making environments. What tools do you usually use in your job in terms of software?
In my daily job, we use tools that are not public and they're proprietary to Ubisoft. And but in general, people might use for like creating and level dressing and storytelling Unreal Engine on Unity 3D, and for making assets, there's a lot of people using Maya, a lot of people using 3D Max, a lot of indies using Blender. So the choices are there are a lot of choices on the tool that you can use. At the end of the day, every tool does the same thing. It's just a different way of doing, or the menu is different thing. So if you're like starting to work on the environment, I think you should focus more on the fundamentals that goes behind the environment rather than the tools itself. And yeah, let's go back to the video. Another question. My God, so many questions.
No, just one. Just to make it clear, do you usually create the block out directly in the engine that you're working on, or do you prefer maybe to make it in Maya or and then?
Usually when we make the first block out, we do an engine. We got a set of, let's call it Lego blocks, and we just scale them and create room very easily with the boxes, cylinders, and things like that. And when you're making props, you want to make the block out in Maya, so that when you import it in whatever engine you're using, you can then update the mesh and automatically, without having to replace the prop in the scene. I guess that's a better workflow to look at.
Cool.
Another question?
No. We can go.
You can go? You sure?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's go back to the video.
Talking too much.
So you can see here a bit the rule of third, right? You're saying, oh, you never mentioned the rule of third in that shot. Both characters were in one of the third.
I found his body. And the gun.
Do I tell her it looked like a suicide?
The service weapon. Also,
I like how when she's thinking in her head, the camera goes very close up to the thing. I really like this shot actually, because it reminded me of a show called Mr. Robot, where they put the characters in corners of the composition. So if we draw the rule of third again here, just that and that, you can see how the characters are either on this side or maybe on that side, and it creates a very dramatic scene and
Wait,
very.
are you? If
Sorry,
you're drawing, yeah.
Forgot to move, and yeah, you can see how like the characters are in this part of the thing. Plus, you got like a lot of leading lines automatically going in that direction. And I think the takeaway here is learn the rules and then learn how to break them, because you don't have to always stick to the rule of third or whatever other composition technique you're using. I think once you learn it, you can play with it and make the frame working even if you're not following intentionally any composition technique. So in this case, I think the composition really works and create a very dramatic scene. And if you like this sort of composition, go check Mr. Robot. I think it's full of this kind of shots. It's pretty cool.
It's hard to make out, but he told me to cleanse the control.
You see another one here? This is like a really cool shot. So we got, again, rule of third. There's a lot of wind outside my house. You got the rule of third here. We got the guys, which is one of the main subject, which is in the middle. And if you look, the middle is also where this thing is, I guess. And then you have things happening here and things happening on this section here. So again, a very dramatic composition and pretty interesting to me. And if you look at the leading lines of this scene, obviously you got this very strong line here, leading you down there. And on top of that, another way to bring back the eyes to this location here is to create a contrast between the dark and the lights. In fact, you can see the fog inside this door here, where they were smoking earlier. And you can see how it pops out more and makes the silhouette of this guy, especially here. You can see how the rim light of a light probably coming from here is defining her not as a shape but just as a silhouette around it. So yeah, in this shot, I think it's kind of interesting how the eyes move around. I think you look at that, and then you look at that kind of thing. And it's very pleased to the eye, and the dynamic, how the eye moves in this frame is very dynamic and very, very interesting.
And it's also very cool that in this cutscene they are showing you the guy that is floating, that is gonna be the key point of your next action, and they're showing you also where are you, so you can connect where you need to go after the cutscene.
Yeah, exactly. Another things that I've got to mention here is that we got this strong line leading to this location here, but at the same time here that we got like the half of the frame, we got another strong line leading us. Leading us a bit down, which then brings the lines to this point. So you can see this point how has many more like lines leading to this point, because it's probably weaker in terms of high leading. So because of that, all these lines are compensating this shot, and this one has such a huge leading line there that doesn't need anything else. That makes sense. So with those lines, it kind of compensate the eye. So you kind of go here, go there, and go there. So you do this kind of movement, which is pretty cool. Let's go back to the video.
Yeah.
Point. Push the hiss out. The whole room shifted around.
You did that? And you entered the building when it was already in the lockdown before you became the new director? How?
I'm not ready to tell her about you.
See, she's thinking in her head, and close up on her eyes.
I love it.
There are the windows of your soul.
I can't even. Look, Jesse.
So you can see here how this guy, this shot here, if we they used like the classic rule of third. Sorry, classic rule of third here. So we got her right there, and then her here. Pretty easy. like pretty straightforward. Because we were talking earlier how they use so many times the 1 point perspective composition. In this case, we can see how they use the rule of third, and I saw that happening often during the character conversation. So I guess that's how they went for, like, environment wise, they tried to keep like this 1 point perspective central composition, where with characters looks like they went more with the traditional way of rule of third. Forgot to show what I was doing, but that's what I was doing.
I didn't want to interrupt your flow of thoughts.
Like, do you know my brother Dylan? Not yet.
But there's something I need to ask you to do first. If you can cleanse a control point, then you can maybe
Again, this
cure
shot.
those infected or possessed by the hiss. Because if that's possible, our options are very different.
They worked so hard on that they wanted to put 2 times in the
I
cutscene.
don't know her.
Exactly.
Already. She's the opposite of the faceless agency I've blamed for what happened to me for so long. But I can't trust her yet. Or rather, the bureau she's a part of.
Yes.
A lot of talking in this game. I didn't remember so many conversations.
I'm speaking for you, of course. We can
Maybe
try
you
it
skipped
together.
that.
I think that's the end.
Okay. You with me? We did it before. Push the hiss out.
Oh, let me in. Oh god.
So I think at this point right here, I started to get
Scared of
after
the game.
this. No, after this scene, I felt a little lost, and I needed to use much more frequently the map to get around the environment.
Interesting. Again, you see here, I forgot to take a screenshot, but yeah, after that little cinematic shot, the frame was using the rule of third and was like framed where you had to look at, or like framed nicely. Yeah, you look a bit lost. You look like running around.
I can't cleanse them. I saw. It was worth a shot. Thank you.
Actually, I think there is another cutscene here. So after that,
I'm gonna tell her why I'm here.
So windy outside. Windy.
I'll risk it.
Listen, the Bureau was involved in an incident in my hometown, Ordinary, 17 years ago. The Bureau came in and covered the whole thing up. I've been looking for this place for a long time.
That's enough. Maybe that's too much already. I can't tell her about Dylan and the rest yet.
I've seen mentions of an Altered World event case dealing with Ordinary.
You can see how that woman, it's in the rule of third.
Mhm.
It was one of the big
Always
ones
that, always.
before my time. And very classified. I can try to dig out some old files for you. My boss, Casper Darling, would know, but he's missing. I think he knew this was coming, or suspected. He came up with the HRAs, the Hadron Resonance Amplifiers. I think they're what saved
Let's
us.
keep it a bit.
A few of us. And Director Trench would know.
yeah,
That's
Move
my
forward a bit. There you
No
go.
matter what they told me all those years, I know it's real now. I didn't imagine this.
Pretty cool shot. You can see how
I want to be a
the eyes really focus on one thing. And it's right in the center again.
This is that I finally found it. Only to see the hiss destroy it all.
Very cinematic. I really like this shot here. With the sounds as well. It's very cinematic.
very tense.
Yeah. All right, let's see where it goes now.
Don't hesitate to ask me anything you want to know. There are no stupid questions. The door to the comms department is just outside the boardroom back in the lobby. They should have gotten it open by now.
I mean, she just told you where to go, right? She told you where the door is.
Yeah. And also,
There it is.
here actually there's a VFX that is helping you where to go. I think at this point they gave you the freedom to explore the entire headquarters, so you can walk freely inside the rooms.
Yeah. One thing that I want to point out here, which is interesting and a lot of time is missing, again, I'm sorry for the blur, but we have motion blur today, is the infrastructure elements of the environment. You can see how there is the alarm light here. Okay. A bit bigger. There's an alarm light or something there, and probably that's to indicate something. There is a little sign here. You got the fire alarm thing with the cables going down. You got the plug. You got the alarm in case the fire goes off, and other little things that I can see here that are probably like on this side of the screen. But yeah, it's very important especially if you're making an environment that is grounded that is like based on reality or based on the world we're living. You don't forget to add those elements that makes a space realistic, like this kind of thing, as well as the sprinklers here for the water to come out in case of emergencies. There are vents up there for ventilation. You can see there's another one here, another vent there. So all of those elements creates like ground this place to reality and to what we're used to. Don't know, maybe there's another plug here I can't see, but yeah, plugs, fire alarm, maps, emergency signs and things like that, health and safety sign where the fire extinguishers are. All those elements are very important to make an environment in an interior believable. Back to the video. The brutalist architecture plays really well here in terms of the line and things. Yeah, here you can see what I was talking about earlier in terms of gradient. You can see how red this is and how bluish this is. I guess the light from the center of that opening there, and you can kind of see how blends between these two colors, and it creates like a really nice colors. Like look at this part here. You got this red part here, this blue part, and it's kind of creating an interesting contrast. You can see the blue here, you can see a bit blue here, but it's not as intense as if it's close. Blue here, blue there, etc. So the closer it gets to the red light, the less intense the blue becomes, and that's a really nice way to blend this color together. And I think that works really well.
Also, the red suggesting me that that's a dangerous part.
Yeah. When you see blood and you see dead bodies, you're like, oh, what should I do here? Again, here, look at the amount of materials you see in this space.
Yeah, there aren't many.
Yeah.
It's all very neat and clear to the see.
Again, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to post in the chat.
We actually had one from Quindelu.
Actually, have one?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So here again, before we go to the question, I want to show you again how the blue is blending with the red and how nicely it is, and how interesting this shape is, and how central it is in terms of composition, and the fact that you just came from a door is like another opportunity for us to frame whatever we want you to see in a nice way. So pretty cool. All right, let's go to the question time. Let me pause the video. And let's go to the question. There we go. What's the question about?
So Quindelu was asking, it looks all very detailed. What kind of study is done on these environments? Are they seen in first person?
What do you mean with study? Like in terms of how do you get the details of it? Like why you?
I think it's similar to what we said before. You know, how you approach the environment at the first.
Okay, so as we say earlier, like
time.
it really depends by the type of environment you're making. If you're making an environment that you can visit, you usually visit it and try to gather reference. Like this building here, you can see how is influenced by the brutalist architecture. So probably even if this building doesn't exist in real life, you go to see other brutalist building and you try to find information about the brutalist movement, etc., etc. So that's how you try to get these sort of details. And yeah, I hope that answered your question. In the previous room, when you show the details. Okay, so probably you're talking about the infrastructural element, and I think you can see whatever, like if you go to school, if you go to the university, if you go to the office, all those public space will definitely have infrastructural elements. So what you do really, you just open your eyes and you look around instead of just looking at whatever you're looking at. But like you look at the skirting of the place, you try to see how much space there is after a set of stairs, which is like health and safety has to have the specific gap in order for you not to kill yourself, I guess. You start to look at where the fire extinguishers are. You can see how many times how many there are in a room, where the signs are, where the fire alarm trigger is, where the sprinkles are. And you look at the ceiling and you check all the vents and you see how ventilated the space is. And you try to look at all these little things, and with the time your brain will start to start to create a database of memories that will help you when making this environment. And on top of that, when you're making an environment, you just look at a picture of I don't know, a museum or a public space, whatever, and you look at the picture, and in every picture in a public place, you will probably be able to see and spot all these little elements that we highlighted earlier. I hope that answered your question.
We'll see. We'll see in the chat.
Again, look at the colors, so good. Blue and red. That creates this purple when the blue is transiting between the red. So good.
That was strange.
You can see how the lights here, the red light is kind of showing you the objective as well as where you can be safe in terms of flanking routes or things like that. Again, the gradient between the blue and the red is phenomenal in this shot, this space.
That was annoying.
Yeah, here I think we go. I think this is the best place where I can see the gradient. So if you look closely at about this wall, here you can see red, blue, and how the blue is kind of changing to red. So that's the kind of gradient that I'm talking about. This kind of thing. It creates a really interesting color palette.
So I wanted to go there, but
You couldn't.
I gave up.
So yeah, another thing that I noticed, going back to the topic about the infrastructural thing, is this ramp. So if there is a if there is a ramp here, it's either for letting people with a wheelchair access the things, or being able to move carts or things with wheels up and down to the stairs. Because behind you there was a wall full of this kind of document thing, and there was a ladder with wheels, I think. So maybe that can run on this. Right. So yeah, that's interesting.
That's a cool detail.
Another thing that is really nice in these stairs, in general, in all the stairs, in all the edges, which I don't know if you guys can see a lot, is the amount of details that are on the edges. Even if this place is like brand new or like kind of like in use and it's not like abandoned or post-apocalyptic, you can see the amount of edge wear that you have on this thing. You got like some dents and things like that, and that's really good because one, it adds a lot of details that otherwise you don't have, and otherwise you will get just a straight line, geometrical line, which is not pleasing for the eyes. And second, sometimes it catches the lights nicely and creates an interesting silhouette. You can see on the steps here how it's not just a flat line, but it's has some sort of variation that is defined by those dents. I made a tutorial about how to create this sort of details, and if you go check my station, you should find it. And yeah, I think they did a really good job. You can see here, for example, how if those details, those dents weren't there, you wouldn't have been able to see this kind of rim light on this edge here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Again, look at the gradient, so good. Sorry, I keep looking at that. I'm like, again, very brutalist architecture. The ramp again. You see there is a map of the space there on the wall. That's another element of the infrastructural layers of this space. The toilet with the signs. You know, toilets, I feel like they're part of the infrastructure. They need to exist in a space, especially if it's public, and you need to have more than one probably. You see this, you know how this has the male and the female one? That's like a really good thing. So you don't have just to add one, but you need to add two in order to get closer to what we see in the real life and make this environment look more realistic from that point of view. like the centerpiece there, the trees. Like in areas like this where we got a lot of space, we try to create an hero houses in the middle where normally attention would go to, just to make the space more how do we say, like nicer for the eyes, I guess. Were you lost here?
We're on the right track.
Yeah. So I went back to the point I got lost and restart from there.
Another toilet, and I guess you like toilets.
Yeah.
Like checking if it's clean. Can see there is a blood that going that direction. It's already telling you, oh, there's something going on. All right, that's a pretty common thing we do when the player is approaching a space and it's about, and we want to suggest that something is going on in that space. We create this sort of animation. I guess in this case they have the budget to have the animation. If you don't have the time and the budget to do an animation, even just having blood marks or some elements that are coming from the door where you want the players to look at, it will be enough to sell the fact that coming from this direction, I want to go in there. And on top of that, I can see how this pipe on the ceiling, they are all kind
Leading.
of converging to this door here.
Uh-huh.
And then you got another sign here, which is, if you see, well lit from this light here, I guess. And yeah, this like details or the animation movement really channels the players inside this door. And with the help of these yellow pipes, you definitely get the players in. Make sure when you place the pipe like that, I don't see it here too much, but try to create a sort of a connection to the wall, not just have the pipe going straight to the wall like it is now, but maybe have like a not, like you see how we got this element here that we also have here. Try to have one of these by here, just to create a better transition between the pipe and the wall. And then when you place that, don't just place it outside. Make sure that if the ceiling inside this interior here is tall enough, make sure that you see the pipe getting in, so that you create you make the logic make sense in this space. Yeah, you can see the pipe they were on the ceiling, so it's all good.
Yeah.
This base, I think, is really cool in general because of the lighting. We got like a strong source light coming from the back of the room, which really helps to get all these details on the surfaces where you see the specularity. Like you can see here, you can see on this pipe, you can see there, you can see a bit of there, here, there. And when you have lights that are low, you usually get this sort of effects, which makes the environment cool. So yeah, try to not just place the lights on the ceiling pointing down, because that will make it harder to get this kind of specular, good-looking highlights. But instead, try to have wherever you can, try to have the light kind of angle in a way that is not vertical. Obviously, like in that shot, there was a lot of player leading. Like you can see here, another again, we got this ramp here. Got different type of ramp in this case. You can see like it's pretty nice. You got this silhouette here, and definitely wheels goes on here. So maybe maybe inside on top of that or down there will be props that has wheel that will normally go through this. Go back. It's very cool, yeah. Oh, the pipes conversion there makes a really interesting hero asset. So again, the hero assets of this location here it's like this place here, which coincidence is where you have to interact. Shall we skip this part?
Oh yeah, I think it's the tutorial for
Yeah,
telekinesis.
we talked about a tutorial. Here, it's interesting to see how from the tutorial you get back to this and you're facing the other direction and you can see right in front of you enemies coming in.
Teammates.
And sorry. And again, you can see how this pipe, way too big. These pipes are pointing you down. There is a high contrast in this opening, so you can see how dark is the entrance there compared to how bright this is. And again, the lights that you are, in this case, you have in the background creates these very nice highlights in the metals of this space, which are all like kind of leading down. And then obviously the stairs leading up. Cool.
Just like you wanted, right? This will help me fight the hiss.
Yeah. There are a lot of things with wheels on them, so like this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's connected with the thing that you said about the stairs, you know.
The ramps. It's funny that this set of stairs that you are now doesn't have that. But yeah, that's
Neither
another.
does.
It's another conversation. It's funny how we were so led inside that room that we didn't even see this place here.
Through the mail room.
You only saw when you came out from it.
In fact, I don't even know if it was blocked by that red thing that we saw, or probably it was just clear.
Yeah, who knows? They did such a good job in leading us inside there that we don't know. Again, you can see here what I was talking about. The light in this shot that comes from this room here. So probably they place a light here that is like facing this and it creates these nice shadows and nice details here. Instead of you see how they added the chance to turn on these lights, this light here, but instead they didn't, and instead they went with a more like darker environment and a more interesting light to achieve a lot of details, especially on the tiles here. You can see how like the edge of the tiles here, as well as the pattern that you can see on each tile. So yeah, cool.
Destruction.
Pretty cool destruction, yeah.
So there are always pipes leading me to where I need to go. Pipes are a common thing. We also saw them in Titanfall.
Yeah, exactly. Pipes and cable on the floor is like best ingredient to lead player through spaces. Another toilet? Yeah, you definitely like toilets.
Because I remembered what the chat said about toilets in the other time. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember someone saying something about it. Again, a bit of storytelling. He died. Scared. Again, the blood coming outside the door. That's exactly what I was telling you earlier.
Mhm.
Look at this. Actually, let's go back to the video.
So
and let's
many
finish.
pipes everywhere.
This when you got in this space here, you can see already how this space is such like a boss arena.
Yeah,
You can see how
because
there's like this
there's so many
line,
space.
this line like that, making it this very powerful kind of
Mhm.
and tall space. You can see how I don't think we ever been in such a tall place, and you can see how the pipes are like going around the lights to create this interesting effect. You got this corridor here, and you got this part here that is very highlighted because of how bright it is. You see how it stands out more. So definitely that's where the boss is coming from. In fact, that's where it is. And guess what? Not only it came out from here, or I think it was. This is
Yeah,
also
it was that.
another line. So you got this, that. So this is like very boss, and right off the bat, you can read the space. So you can read that there is another layer there. You can see that there is
Mhm.
a space that you can go under there. So maybe to get to safety, you will have to use those flanking routes there. I'm not sure here, but I can see there is a handrail here. So probably this is another space that you can use for safety, and the pillars in this space are there to create to block the line of sight to block the line of sight of you with the boss, or to block the line of sight of the boss with you. Either way will work. So I think this is like a really good place. And then it's very easy to read like where to cover.
Yeah.
Again, you got the pillar, which are massive, but then you got like these spaces here, these spaces here, this space which goes kind of in a circle. It's like a octagonal, I think, shape or something. So probably they can be used as 360, but you can see already that you got all these elements here and there that really helps you to read the space very easily. And lastly, I think again the amount of colors that you have. So you got one color, which is the pipe, two color, which is this darker floor, and then maybe the wall is another color, something like that. So that's the amount of colors you have, like very, very little. And last thing, everything is centered. So again, composition is very centered, and a lot of variation in terms of roughness in the material. So you can see how specular this is and how rough this is. Even if it's kind of the same color, you can see the variation of that. So definitely a very cool shot. I think so far one of the best. I remember this boss was actually quite tough.
Yeah.
When I play, I think it took me a few times to get him.
I love how the light in this game is soft and lovely.
Yeah. And you see also the lights on the stairs there was very clear. Like you turn around and you saw it and you got up.
Yeah.
So was that intentionally to signpost better the stairs going up to this upper part?
But you were right. It was actually pretty tough, and spoiler alert, I died the first time.
I guess the viewer already learned that,
I can die easily.
Look again at the material reflection contrast between the corridor and this part of the space. See fire extinguishers there. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
it happened.
At least we see some loading screen. But I'm gonna skip forward until the end of the boss.
Yeah.
Since we already looked at this space. Alright. Obviously here very, very strong architectural lines and pipes, and obviously that's where you go. Very nice. Again, symmetry is a key here. The shape is very like brutalist inspired. Even the platform where you are is very like concrete and bare bone in terms of details, which is very similar to the brutalist movement. You got
And
science.
also
The hotline can't be far now.
Careful.
there was the loot for people who wants to see everything.
Yeah, exactly. For like, usually we try to reward who explore the spaces by adding
like a
loot.
word, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can see the what I was saying earlier about the fire extinguisher. You got the sign here. You got the fire extinguishers there. You got the thermostat there. You got this light switches there. It's pretty cool, like this element. Probably when like sometimes we try to group these things and place them all together all the time so that we can place them easily and faster. Yeah, you can see here again. This is the phone ringing. Go get it. Again, very symmetrical, very interesting composition. They played a lot with the colors, which makes everything looking really good. They added some signage too. You can see the panel on the left and the plaque on the right.
Whoa. Have we been here before?
I remember this sort of thing.
No.
Mm.
I've stayed at a lot of
It's
roadside
amazing.
hotels across the country, on the road.
So they let you see right the start
Feels like
where the locked door is.
something recognized from a
Exactly.
dream.
Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to post in the chat, and Borto will look at the chat and see.
Yeah, we have a few questions, but it's about if the game won any award for the environments in this game. And I don't know you, but I can't really answer it. I know it won a few prizes, but
Yeah, usually when we do this kind of live stream, we should like Google it quickly to pretend to know things instead of just saying that. But that's another conversation. But yeah, I think
it takes
they
too much time.
I can't really Google now because I'm sharing the screen, and yeah.
And also, it will look totally fake because, see, you can actually hear my keyboard. So,
but yeah, I think they won something. I don't remember for what they got rewarded for, but they definitely got something. I'm gonna skip this part too because we already saw it in other situation. Go back here.
People react strongly when I tell them.
So I remember right now that they won the Best Art Direction in 2019 award by the Game Awards, and also they won the Game of the Year No, actually no.
I like how you're struggling to read some information that you're googling. But yeah, I think the art direction is like well deserved because you can see how nice and pleasant for the eyes these all look.
Well, actually, they won the Best Visual Award from the Developer Choice Award, Best Technology and Best Audio.
I'm gonna skip this part again.
Yeah.
So this looks like a new area of this headquarters. You can see already the lighting, how different it is. I don't know if if this is just for this cinematic scene or if it's gonna stay like that. But yeah, look, see, there is no blue anymore, but it's green, and it creates this sort of Goliador-looking candy. Goliador is an Italian candy that goes from green to red, and looking really good.
Do you hear that? Someone's singing. Where's it coming from? I'll go look.
I like how you were able to go already to the objective, but you decide to stop and ask question, but then you say,
Yeah, no, you can skip ahead.
and then like, oh no, I don't want to hear anything, and then
I thought I needed to talk with her. But
was this the first time you played the game?
yeah.
I see. Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. I think for the sake of the video, I never actually or assign any skill point. But
you can assign them and post the video, you know. Yeah, and remove the motion blur.
Too many actions, you know.
Too many things. I see. It's a cool testing area. Is that where you're supposed to go? No? Okay.
No.
You can pay attention to the signage of this place because that's the only thing that will really help you to navigate the space.
Like I said before.
I learned that by the end of the video.
Better than ever. This guy. Look at this guy. I'm not gonna spoil what this guy is. Ah, nice.
The maintenance sector is the janitor domain.
Yeah, already here, apart that we move very fast, we can see how the color, like if you blur your eyes, if you like look in a way that you close your eye a bit and the image becomes blurred, you can see how everything is kind of yellow. And that's a common thing that we do when we want to signpost the player that they are entering in different areas or it's a completely different areas, and that's to make the players more aware of where they are in terms of location. And you can see like the yellow pipe were present already there, but even here you can see how the yellow color is so much more present than before. And obviously, like in this shot, you got the pipe. Again, we got this recurrent element, which is the pipe that is going that direction, and then this is going down. And guess what? That's where you're going, down there. This is pretty obvious, just to make it look cool and to make it more like iconic, the interaction of this space. So now you can say that we are in the yellow area of the game.
Maybe it was you who let me into the oldest house with the lockdown on. Maybe it was Ahti.
You can see also in the atmospheric fog there is a sort of tint, a yellow tint.
Is Ahti guiding me too?
And yeah, again, as I said, that's to create a variation in the environment that you encounter as a player, as well as to make you more familiar with the different areas of the game. I feel like there's a bit of lag here, but I don't know if it's my computer or the video, probably like the stream. I like how the pillars are getting destroyed. It's really cool. And you can see inside the pillar, it's not just the other concrete, but those are like metal rebars that suggest that those pillars are reinforced pillar, which is what they are supposed to be in such a building. So it's really good. More pipes coming out from the wall. You see the signage here is like telling you where the locations are. The red light on top of the door, it tells you straight away that that door is closed, so that you don't have to check. But if you want to check, you can always do. And again, you see how this whole environment is yellow. Oh, again. That's so cool, man.
So, environment arts equals to pipes. That's it.
Exact. Now, leading player equal to pipes.
Okay.
But then, yeah, in general, we like to add these kind of pipes, especially because they're made of metal and they create nice highlights with the lights that we place around.
Mm-hmm.
What's down that way?
What's down that way? She's also telling you where to go.
That red flash, I thought it was actually a bug. But it wasn't.
Alright, gonna skip this part because I guess we will learn. It's a bit more different. I like the effect that it's on the side, that is this kind of waves of concrete moving around. I think it's very
How do you think it got down here?
interesting from a artistic point of view.
A carousel.
I wonder if that's made, if that's like a shader or it's actually geometry moving around. Because they create some shadows, so definitely there are polygons there. I'm wondering if those are just animated polygons or... Oh my god, what happened there? Yeah, animated models or vertex shader that is moving the vertex with a shader in a wavy form. Alright, we can skip this part. Okay, go back here. It's too blurred. Okay, let me take another screenshot. Oh my god, this motion blur. Alright, let's live with this. So if we look at this screenshot, one thing that I wanna highlight is in this wall here, a common thing that we do to make everything more pleasing to the eye is to create some sort of skirting or color variation. Yeah, you can see there is like a white line here, plus the bottom of this part is sort of darker, and then you got the floor, which is whatever it is, right? And on top of that, usually we also add like a little skirt. Yeah, maybe not, unless this is already like extruded outwards. If it's not, we usually add this, and that's to create an interesting transition between the vertical line and the horizontal line via this sort of details here. It's very It's very important. And again, because we never try to repeat the same things, look at here, there's like a light switch, a plug, probably a thermostat. You got the classic office light there, which is really cool and integrated. And what else do we have? We got elements that shows us that this is a part of probably it's like the break room of our office, because you got the water thing here. You got the lockers, maybe with personal effects and things like that. But yeah, in general, this sort of band here is made to create that sort of transition from a vertical to horizontal plane, and usually works really well. And if you look in your house, you definitely have skirting everywhere. Maybe you don't have the band, the color band, but you definitely have skirt. So in games, we try to amplify that to make it more interesting.
Why didn't they use it on the wall? Oh, because it's made of bricks. I see. There was one of the third wall that they didn't have.
Yeah,
But
probably that details. It's part of the texture of the mesh. So that's really cool.
Mhm.
It's probably part of the mesh of the wall, that the other room that you were getting into it. So one thing that I want to point out here is like there is a door here which is kind of behind him, and you can see how it casts the silhouette here, and the light here is highlighting. It's highlighting this number here. So it's like 1 and then 2. Okay, there's a number, and then why there's a number, and then oh, there's a door there. That's cool. And you can see again the details that we were talking about. It's sort of here too. We got like in this case, this metal part here is not just there to make it cool, but it's there with a logic in mind, which is cart and things can bump to that. So in general, they don't want to ruin the door, so they will put like a protective layer of metal to protect that, which is something that you can do on walls too, and it's very effective. Again, we got this wall element. I think it's also behind him, but you don't see it much. And we got another source of light here. And I'm pointing out all these things because ultimately, thanks to these amazing paddles here on the floor, you can see here, which is again connected to what it's doing, right? It's like mopping. Here's the mop here. So again, it's all connected to that. Thanks to this nice paddle, we got this interesting reflection here of the light that we saw there, and the light that we saw here, which is pretty good looking, pretty good looking. Wondering if you have to go inside this door.
Yeah, that's the goal.
And then again, even in this shot, even where we don't have the symmetry of the architecture, he is placed pretty much in the center. And if we also draw the rule of third, we will see probably that the number here is right there. So that's another indicator that that's kind of important, since it's so bright and so visible, which is again to remind you that there is signage in this space, and you can, if you get lost, try to look more for the signage, I guess, something like that. And yeah, that's a pretty cool shot. Let's go back to the video.
Well done. You got the job. It's place for
Again, here we have a conversation between two characters, and you can see how the rule of third is more, it's used more in this space here.
I truly need an assistant.
Funny thing is, I've been a janitor. I'm more at home in that role than as the director. Only Ati here seems to see that.
Yeah,
Hi, Ati. Look.
So windy outside my house.
Otherwise, I can't get to
Don't
the
know if you guys can pick the wind sound.
Can you help me get to the override?
Yes, yes, easy peasy. It's just around the corner. But first, we need to get you working.
I think
So
we can
this guy
stop.
had,
Yeah.
Very small.
yeah,
compound
I just want to say a silly thing,
It tells
that
me it's gonna be
his accent is very unique. Where do you think he came from?
I can tell you are not
Like
the
Swedish?
yesterday's Krause's son. That's why you'll make a great assistant.
Maybe, yeah.
Very
Or
well.
maybe like East Europe
I'll hit
or
the
Russian.
No, I don't think so.
No?
This Klaus has a
Yeah.
vermin problem. A bad one. They've already messed up the cooling pumps. And the
Yeah.
power
Yeah, I think
By the way, yes.
we can end it here.
Yeah.
I think after this shot.
and
And
the resources inside.
yeah, let's stop the video and let's go back to our faces. Yeah, I hope all the information that I gave it to you guys was useful somehow, and I hope that you can see what made Control so good and try to replicate those details in the environment that you're making, or if you were just here to better understand video games, I hope you learn what's the thinking process behind each scene. And again, everything I said was very highlighted. At some point in your experience, things comes naturally. So the dev may have not thought about placing things in that specific way to recreate what I explained, but because they are so experienced, they just do it as an instinct. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I think for a beginner or someone like that wants to learn more, it's a good way to analyze things and learn from the masterpieces that are out there.
So, as always, if you want to join our discussion, we have a Discord channel that's linked below. And you can follow us on our social to know when we are going live next. The next live is scheduled for Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. I don't know if you want to add something, Leo.
No, that's pretty much all. All the screenshots that you saw there, they're gonna be posted on Discord as well as then used in the social medias. So if you follow us, you will see those screenshots and you can get a reminder of the elements that we looked at. And lastly, I just want to say that if you guys want to see a specific game that you really like, or you want to see how can we break it down, then please recommend us in any way you can, like Instagram or Facebook or Discord, whatever you feel more comfortable with. I think that's all from me.
Yep. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a nice evening.
Bye bye.